Hello my friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. It's Mama Ming here. In today's video, I want to talk about exercise in pregnancy. I think a couple of months ago, actually a lot of months ago, I made a video about this, but I was in between my pregnancy back then. I was just summarizing what I was doing in my previous pregnancy, but I'm pregnant again. So let me share with you what exercise can you do during pregnancy. And before we start, I just want to do a disclaimer that everyone is so different. To truly know what exercise that you can do is to talk to your medical doctor, not anyone else in the internet. Why? Because every single case is so different. I'm going to tell you why in a minute, but this video is not medical advice. This is general recommendations for educational purposes and also personal experience. Now let's get started. A little bit background information. I am a certified prenatal yoga teacher, which means that I do work with pregnant women in their prenatal yoga. I do practice prenatal yoga when I'm pregnant. Also, I work at gyms, so workout exercise is literally my life. However, this doesn't mean that I'm a medical professional. So there are certain conditions during my prenatal yoga training that we are aware that if you found out you're pregnant, talk to your doctor first before you do anything else, just because you don't know if you have any issues and complications. Some of the examples like this is like if you have a weaker pelvic floor, if you have a weaker cervix, if your cervix is shorter, there are many conditions that may prevent you from exercise. And the only way to know is to do a exam, other like preterm birth in the past, your medical history, and if you have other things in the past that you may want to avoid exercise. So in the past, the doctor even recommend bed rest, but it's no longer a recommendation. But the rule of thumb is you do not want to do those extraneous activities, lifting weights, squatting, and these things just so because how your pelvic floor, cervix, and sometimes depending on the shape of your uterus, it could also be in a play, and you can only know from like maybe an ultrasound. Talk to your doctor, make an appointment, and get to know about if you are safe to exercise during pregnancy. All right, so now let's assume that your doctor say that it's safe for you to be exercising. What do you do to exercise? So the general rule of thumb is that you can continue to do whatever you were doing before you're pregnant up until you get a little bit bigger, when it gets uncomfortable to do what you're doing. So that is a general rule of thumb. However, you cannot do everything you were doing before you're pregnant because certain movements may contract your uterus a little bit more, and certain weight may be too extraneous when you're pregnant, and certain speed levels may actually like stress your heart too much. So here is the general rule of thumb for me is that I can do about 80% what I used to do before I'm pregnant with modifications. So let's list a list of activities that almost everyone who's cleared by their doctor can do. Prenatal yoga is a good one. Walking is a perfect one. Swimming in a pool that's pretty low in the chemicals or bacteria is considered safe because it's a very low impact. Moderate zone 2 training is considered safe, which means if you can exercise and still carry a conversation, that means it's moderate zone 2 training, and that is considered safe during pregnancy. Weightlifting is considered safe if you don't max out the weight. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Certain aerobic training is great, and actually it's recommended by doctors that you do about 150 minutes of aerobic training every single week, and that can be like Zumba, dancing, steps, elliptical machines, like those things can also be great. Now let's talk about what modifications that you may consider. So personally for me, I did not hop at all during my first life pregnancy. The reason for it was because I had this feeling. It was so weird that everyone around me who are pregnant, they were still running, jogging, jumping, whatever. They were still doing whatever they used to do because the doctor told them that you can carry out these things. But very early on when I go to these classes, I had this feeling in my uterus that I do not want to be bouncing around. And guess what? In my second trimester, I found out that I have complete placenta previa. If I were to bounce around, I could have caused some sort of like bleeding, even rupture of my placenta. So it could become a dangerous situation. So to a lot of people with placenta previa, the doctor will tell them to do bed rest or like at least do not do any exercise. But since my provider goes to the same gym with me, even take my yoga classes, work out next to me in the gym, she said because I know exactly what to do to modify, she recommended me to continue exercising even with placenta previa. So here is an example how this recommendations could be so individualized. Any other doctor would have told me like, no, you have complete placenta previa. It's a big placenta complication and you should not be working out. And you have complete pelvic rest. You have almost bed rest. You can just walk. But because my provider, she's well aware of my knowledge of fitness and my body, and she told me to modify, do low impact, watch out my heart rate and stuff like that, and just continue to exercise. And I did continue to exercise up until 38 weeks and 1 day. That was my last workout class. And I continued to teach yoga classes until 2 days before I delivered my son. Consider how different the recommendation is. Talk to your doctor. Just because other women with complete placenta previa cannot exercise doesn't mean that you cannot. And just because I could exercise with placenta previa, that doesn't mean that you can. So talk to your medical professional. Now let's talk about what modifications that I did. So first of all, I talk about no jumping, no hopping, no running. I was doing incline walk. I was just doing like a lot of the low impact movements. And that is not because of the fetus, especially early on. That is because of the placenta. I have a friend who used to be a runner and she continued to run in her first trimester. And at 12 weeks, she started bleeding. And they said that it was a placenta complication. She could not run anymore, but she could walk. But she decided not to walk or exercise at all because that really scared her. So these high impact movements might not affect your baby at all, but there is a small chance that it would cause some complications with your placenta. So just to be on the safe side, I personally tell my friends not jumping or running and bouncing around to avoid this high impact movement, just for the sake of to be safe, just in case there's any placenta complications and you don't know of up until your second trimester. The second thing that is a rule of thumb, especially in yoga, is no deep twist. Because when you're deep twisting, you're contracting your belly, your abs, and you're also contracting your pelvic floor, and it could actually contract your uterus as well. It's very uncomfortable for the baby once the baby is more developed because you're contracting his or her space. At the same time, if you have any increased likelihood of preterm labor, it could put you into the labor because it causes certain contractions. It won't put you into labor right now, but just to be safe, do not do any deep twist. However, you can do open twist is considered safe, just not deep twist. You don't want to contract your belly in a twisted way. The third thing that I want to avoid is no back bend. Okay, not everyone do back bend, I understand, but if you're like me who are yogi, do these wheel practices where you push down to a deep back bend, it is very, very uncomfortable for the baby, and you're stretching your uterus, your belly, and that could potentially cause issues. And that also applies to upward facing dog. Instead of doing upward facing dog, you should always go with a cobra or a cow pose to do a gentle back bend for the upper back instead of a deep back bend to your belly to stretch out your belly too much, because your uterus is already stretching when you're pregnant. Would you stretch like that? It could potentially cause issues. So no back bend. The next modification that I personally really watch out for is watch out your heart rate, because when you're pregnant, your heart rate goes up naturally by 10 to 20 beats per minute, and that is your resting heart rate. So the first thing that I noticed is that my cardiovascular health went down. My resting heart rate went from 59 to about 79 by 20 beats per minute. And doing the same exercise at the same intensity in the past would make me 140 beat per minute for my heart rate, but now it will become 160 beat per minute. So I really have to slow down. I have to do squats really slow. I have to do high knee really slow without jumping. My jumping jacks is always modified by like toe taps. So I am closely monitoring my heart rate with my Apple Watch. So the general rule of thumb is you want to keep your heart rate in zone 2 and not in zone 3. Zone 2 is when you can carry a conversation. So personally, I need to keep my heart rate under 160, preferably under 150. So which one should you keep, 160 or 150? It really depends on your age. The younger you are, the higher that you can slightly push for, and the older you become, like in your maternal age, you want to kind of take it a little bit more easier. So because I'm 34, when I give birth, I will be 35. I want to keep my heart rate closer to that 150 range and not go over 160. But if it does go over 160 for 30 seconds, it's not going to be bad, but you don't want to keep your heart rate high at 160 all the time for an entire workout. That means that when everyone is like, go, 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 I have to stop, catch my breath, make sure my heart rate goes down to 120 and go again. So I have to take frequent breaks. I have to just not push myself too hard, which is really hard since if you work out all the time, you push forward like athletes, it's very hard to slow down, but this is a good time to slow down. So the next modification to do is no contracting your lower abs. So that means not double leg lift. So when I do those like ab workouts, instead of doing the double leg lift, I just do bend, one knee raise, another knee raise. You can do core exercises, but not deep contraction of your lower abdomen. Once you're bigger, it's easier to know that, but when you're in first trimester, it's easy to feel like you still can do everything you can, but you shouldn't. That is what I learned in my prenatal yoga training, is even though in the first trimester, you don't feel the baby, you don't feel the bump, you feel like you can still do everything as it used to be, you shouldn't, like including deep twist, back bend, and that includes the deep lower abs contraction workout. But on the other hand, you can still do some upper ab crunches in the early trimesters, first and second, before your babies are big. You can do some crunches with the high, like upper abs. That's okay. You can do some burdocks, you know, to practice the stability. Actually, it's recommended from physical therapists for pregnant women to do burdocks because it helps you to stabilize core to release lower back pain. So you can do core exercises, you just cannot do every single core exercises. Lastly, I want to talk about what I can do during pregnancy. So in my previous video, there was this comment that, well, let's see, hope that your workout don't cause the uterus to contract and miscarry. Workout this early isn't that serious to me. Only women who have never struggled to get or stay pregnant do shit like this. So this is actually a very offensive comments, I would say, but hey, if you think you can hurt me, you cannot. I've had practice with these. I've had toxic people in my childhood. If I can go do with that, I can do with this. So here's the thing, is you can work out similarly as before you're pregnant. So before I was pregnant, I was doing HIIT training. I was weightlifting with barbells. I was also doing like, you know, conditional trainings with kettlebells. I was also doing circuit training, doing yoga. But what to modify and what to avoid once you think you're maybe pregnant or once you find out you're pregnant. The first thing that I modify is I used to do hot yoga, but now I can no longer do hot yoga. I have to teach in a lower temperature room, and I practice without any heat. So I have to go to unheated yoga classes or practice at home instead of going to the heated yoga classes. It's very hard to say bye-bye, but heat will affect the development of fetus and increase the likelihood of spina bifida in the first trimester. But I talked to like 3 different doctors about it. They all said that after 12 to 13 weeks after the spinal cord closed in your baby, it is generally considered safe for your baby if you are exposed to mild heat. But again, if you are experiencing heat exhaustion yourself, it could still be dangerous to the mom. So do not do sauna and stuff, but with hot yoga, depending on the heat, over 100 is no. But after 13 weeks, if you feel okay in the 90 degrees like me, I'm already pretty used to the heat. It's considered okay if I, have a cool towel and stuff and ice drinks. The second thing that I have to modify is I lift with barbells. I do deadlifts, squats, Olympic lifting, overhead presses for the past, I would say 6-7 months. I have to modify now. The first thing is what they call like RPE, is like your preserve, your strength in preserve. In the past, the coach would tell me to go all out. So I would be lifting like 145 pounds, squatting 145 pounds. It was considered okay, and it continued to push forward. They're like older women, like in their 60s, lifting 180 to 200 pounds. And they're my goals. But now my goals are very different. My goals is just to preserve my strength and muscles instead of like pushing forward to progress. Instead of lifting 145 pounds, I've been lifting 85 pounds. So it is a big difference from 145 to 85 because I don't want to be too extraneous to me. And as my belly get bigger, I will have to start to decrease my weight more and more. And there is actually a chart from my previous OBGYN doctor office where how much weight you can lift starting from your first trimester, second, and third. Starting from your first trimester, you can still lift up to certain pounds, maybe 100 pounds. The second trimester is like decrease by like 50 maybe, and the third is like maybe 35. So I would instead of using the barbell, I can just use the bar itself. So it's considered safe to lift weights, but the actual weight that you use slowly decline. Also, it depends on what you're doing. Squats are considered more okay than Olympic lifting. Squats are also considered more okay compared to like deadlift. And if you do deadlift, instead of doing traditional deadlift or Romanian deadlift, go for sumo deadlift where you use your butt and glutes instead of using your core. So that is a big thing. And also, as I get bigger, I have the pregnancy belt that my previous provider told me to get, that it will support me when I do things. It will support my pelvic floor and baby, because once you get bigger, you can use your core. It will help you when you exercise. So there are a lot of things that can help you when you do exercises. But the general rule of thumb is that the weight that you're using should be lower compared to before you're pregnant. This is not the time you push for your max out, and this is time to really, slow down and try to preserve your strength and muscles and just go easier and easier, because the bigger you progress, the lower weight you use. So the third thing that I modify is I no longer run, so I walk on the incline. When I do go on Stairmasters, instead of going for level 7 and going for level 4, it's almost like a turtle pacing on the Stairmasters, but it makes me feel safe. And once I get bigger, I may change my workout routine to increase more of the swimming. Swimming is considered really good for pregnancy women. I tried to swim when I was pregnant the first time. It was really, really helpful. After the second trimester, when I go into the third trimester, I will try to swim more, because that's a really good exercise for your cardiovascular health without being strenuous to your body. Last thing is to do with people around you, just like this comment, right? So here's the thing is, when you're pregnant, there are going to be people around you telling you what to do. Here's the thing is, no one knows what you're feeling right now. So at the gym, there is this guy who never had a pregnant wife, but he had a lot of female friends that have been pregnant before. And he's like, why you're not hopping? Why you're not doing high knee jumping? Why are you not jumping? You should be jumping. You're slacking. I'm like, no, I cannot jump right now. He's like, no, pregnant women can jump. I'm like, no, I cannot jump because I had a placenta complication in my last time. Just to be safe, I don't feel safe jumping. And you have to be very sturdy with setting boundaries. When people try to push you to go harder, you'd be like, no, I want to be conservative. I want to be safe, better than sorry. And that, to me, it's very important to set boundaries with people around you. But alternatively, there are also people who are like, oh my gosh, you should not be doing shit like this and whatever. It's just not that serious. It just means you never struggle to get pregnant. You never struggle to stay pregnant. People like this, they never know if you had miscarriages, you have issues with that. But here's the thing is, research shows that there is no correlation between exercise and miscarriage. And research shows that exercise does not cause miscarriage. Let me tell you again, exercise does not cause miscarriage. And my first miscarriage at 7 weeks was due to chromosome abnormalities. And I think it was caused by the paintings at my job. So I was working full-time at the time, and they were painting walls outside, multiple layers, one layer after another before we conceived. And during my pregnancy, like, I miscarried at 7 weeks, but between 4 weeks and 7 weeks, they were painting walls indoors and outdoors. For the outdoors, they were using oil-based painting. For the indoors, they were using water-based painting. And it was to the point that the fumes of this paint are giving me headaches and make me dizzy. And I told my supervisor that I need to get out of my building because it smells so bad. And she said, you can only be out for no longer 15 minutes. You know what I did? I quit my job. So I'm incredibly lucky to have a husband to be able to financially support both of us to be able to quit my job. So a little bit of background story is after I quit, so after I miscarried the baby, I tried again and we failed. But the month I quit my job, I had a complete cycle and we conceived right away because I wasn't exposed to these harsh chemicals. So here's the thing, if you do have miscarriages, talk to your doctor. So once you miscarry the baby, you can actually do a fetus, like genetic testing on the fetus to see if it's because of the chromosomal abnormalities. And to me, in my case, my doctor said my egg yolk was so big, so enlarged, that is a textbook case of trisomy case. She told me that like nothing I did caused a miscarriage, but I really thought it was the painting, the chemicals. But anyways, it's out of my control. I didn't choose what paint to use. I didn't choose to paint the walls, right? I cannot not go to work unless I quit my job. So that is one big thing that in my previous miscarriage. But there's so many things that are studied in pregnancy, and a lot of researchers were looking at the effect of exercise on pregnancy, miscarriage, and labor. Guess what? Exercise is linked to faster labor, less labor complications, and guess what? Exercise during pregnancy is linked to higher intelligence of your baby. So they assumed that it was because of the exercise brings oxygen and blood supply in your entire body, and it may help the development of the brain in the womb, in the uterus. They don't know why, but there were so many benefits that are found in research in exercise during pregnancy that the myth that, like, I cannot believe people literally told me, oh, no women serious about their pregnancy will do shit like this because you have not experienced pregnancy loss. I have experienced pregnancy loss, and I knew it wasn't because of my exercise. It was because of other things that could be caused by chemicals or could be caused just, random chromosome issues. So if you have people around you or on the internet talking shit like this, ignore them. You do not need these toxicities in your life. So here is when you put out a boundary. I talked to 3 different providers that work for 3 different hospitals in terms of what is safe to do for me during pregnancy. And I am doing what they told me that's safe for me to pregnancy. And it's not for those who are not informed, who did not have any medical training to tell me what to do. So if you're just found out you're pregnant and then your mother-in-law tells you one thing, your mom tells another thing, maybe your sister tells you another thing, and your neighbor tells you another thing, and then your gym coach tells you another thing, guess what? Talk to your doctor about your case, because you could have any complication that causes you not being able to exercise at all. And maybe you're pregnant with twins and you don't have any complications, but then the doctor said, do not exercise because you could have preterm labor. You can only walk, swim, and maybe do some prenatal yoga. Those are the 3 things a lot of the doctors recommend to twins. Twin pregnancy is higher risk. So if you have placenta previa, talk to your doctor, right? If you have any spotting, bleeding in your pregnancy, talk to your doctor. Any medical histories, talk to your doctor. It's very, very important to talk to your doctor. And it's very important to talk to multiple doctors. But I love all of my providers in the past. And that is the first question I ask them is what exercise I can do? What is the temperature that is safe for me to teach yoga in? What is temperature that's safe for me to practice yoga in? I ask a long list of these questions to different providers. And get similar answers just because that is why I feel safe doing what I do. But again, when I get a little bit bigger, my exercise routine will change in my vlog, which is very, very normal. Generally, if your doctor said it's safe for you to exercise, I do recommend prenatal yoga. That's unheated, of course, and walking is the best you could do for your life, regardless what other exercise that you do, and do some other like weightlifting. If you don't feel safe doing barbells because you've never done it before, just use some dumbbells, do some bicep curls. Something is better than doing nothing. But last thing is, whatever you're doing, you should feel comfortable doing them yourself. That means if you've been lifting weights, if you've been a gymnast for 10 years, potentially you could still do headstand, handstand when you're pregnant, considering you're never gonna fall. But for me, I don't feel safe doing handstand during pregnancy. And if I do headstand, I do it close to a wall just in case I fall out of it. And that is what I feel safe doing it. So yeah, those are the things that I personally do to exercise during pregnancy. And if you're pregnant, if you plan to be pregnant, if you're trying to conceive, best luck to you and congratulations. And comment down below what exercise that you love to do when you're pregnant. And again, everyone is just so different. If you're only comfortable in walking, and good for you, walking is great exercise. Yeah, that's it for today. Thumbs up and subscribe, and make sure you ring the notification bell so that you won't miss out any future content. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.